Welcome back to this channel. It's your resident internet psychic medium, a spiritual advisor, Mr. Crane, and today I want to talk to you about the difference between your physical mind and your higher mind. And my hope for this conversation is that you will now understand why a lot of your decision making isn't always the right one. So there's a difference between your physical mind and your higher mind. Your higher mind is also referred to as the higher self. Your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, your intuition, right? That is the higher mind. And then the physical mind is what's in the brain, right? Oftentimes, people make decisions using the information that was gathered from what they perceive to be the physical mind. They call it mind over matter, not necessarily realizing that you're probably getting the information from the wrong place. The physical mind, right, the brain, is not capable of being able to perceive new information. It is only capable of computing patterns, right? And so think of your mind, your physical mind, like a T9 calculator. The only thing that it's really doing is calculating, computing, and recognizing patterns from previous situations. Your mind is AI, right? So to speak. Real information, real guidance that's coming from that gut feeling, that's coming from the intuition, is coming from the higher mind. It's coming from the higher self. And a lot of times what happens is that people confuse that physical brain for the higher self. And so we'll say things like, follow your heart, right? Because if you follow your heart, you're following your inner guidance, you're following your intuition. But people mistake the heart or the higher mind or higher self for that of the physical mind, the brain. And so oftentimes where this comes out is usually when you're dealing with romantic relationships, situationships, whatever, where maybe you'll meet someone you intuitively know that it may not be the best circumstance, or that you're not going to end well, or that you are not going to go anywhere. But then you'll say, well, I love this person, I'm following my heart. What you're actually doing is following the physical mind. You're following all of those endorphins, and you're following the dopamine rushes that you're getting from that person or being in certain situations with that person. And a lot of times people will confuse that feeling for being a heart feeling, because you can sometimes feel those reactions in the chest, right? For some people, it's anxiety, but other people may mistake that as some sort of heart-centered response for that person or for that individual. And so we'll think that we are following our heart going into circumstances that are completely decimating us. And then so what ends up happening is that people have a hard time trusting their judgment, because they think that when they followed their thinking in the past, that they were wrong. Or when they thought was a gut feeling, they were wrong, right? So let me back up. Let me redo that. Because people think that when they followed what they felt was like a heart-guided decision in the past, so something that the brain came up with that they felt like was true, honest, and just, like something that they felt like maybe had a gut feeling or an intuitive feeling from. And sometimes people are sure that that's going to come to pass. I am positive that this is going to be the outcome. And then the time rolls around and you're wrong, and you've gotten it wrong. And then you start going, oh my God, am I wrong? Did I read that wrong? Was that not my intuition? I thought I was an intuitive person. How did I get myself into this mess? Because you think that you're following your intuition and being led by your heart, not realizing that what you were actually doing was following the physical mind, the brain, right? The thing that is capable of computing and spotting patterns. And so you may have, or the brain may have been like, okay, situations like this carry the 1, A plus B minus 7. Okay, this should be the outcome. So then you go, oh, this is my intuitive feeling, right? And then the outcome doesn't pass because the brain maybe miscalculated. And then you take that as a slight against your ability, your intuition, your higher mind, your heart, right? Whereas when you're working with your higher mind and your heart, it's quiet. There is no analyzing. So a way to tell the difference would be, let's say you went out for an opportunity, you're trying to figure out whether or not it's going to happen for you or whether or not you got it, right? You got the opportunity, you got the job. If you are in a space where you feel like you got it, but you are over analyzing, where you find that your physical mind, the brain is computing, the physical mind is looking for a pattern, then you know that you're not picking up what you're picking up from your higher self. It's not an intuition feeling. Your brain is computing. And based off of what your brain understands, it may go, well, this is this possibility, or this outcome has the highest possibility of occurring. And that may be you getting whatever that opportunity is. Whereas your higher self, your higher mind, will very calmly, very peacefully, in a full state of knowing that requires no validation, no checking, no analyzing, know that it's in fact yours. It's a calm moment. It's a peaceful moment. And the reason why it's calm and peaceful is because the higher mind knows the outcome. And the reason why the higher mind knows the outcome is because the higher mind decided the outcome. When prior to incarnation, your higher mind has the blueprint. Your higher self has the blueprint of what's occurring. And so when your higher self, and you're listening to that guidance, your higher self has no reason to justify what it knows. And so it'll, in a very calm way, be like, that's mine. Very calm and non-egoic. Whereas if you're working with your physical brain will be stuck in a place of computing. And so there's a lot of analyzing going on. And so if you feel a whole lot of analyzing happening mentally, then you're following your physical brain. Now, there isn't one or other that is like worse or better to follow. You need your physical brain. You need your computer, right? It's more so about being able to determine what you're actually listening to. So if you are computing really hard using the physical mind and you feel like you can't reach an answer, but because you understand the feeling of being too deep in analysis, you can then go, oh, I'm using my physical mind right now. Let me take a step back and take a step out so my higher mind can step in and actually tell me and guide me. Because the true knowing is coming from the higher mind. Now, how to tell if you're listening to your heart or you're listening to the physical brain and it's dopamine and endorphins or like whatever. Your heart is connected to the higher mind. Your heart will be quiet, it will be still, and it will also have the knowing. And that's how you know the heart and the higher mind are actually speaking to each other. When your heart feels like there's a couple palpitations in there, right? Maybe it's working a little bit too hard. Maybe you've got some tightness in the chest, and assuming you know that there is not a medical problem, right? Then probably what's happening is that it's responding to whatever chemicals are being shut out by the brain itself. And so your higher mind is going to be what's going to guide you in all the directions that you need to go. Your higher mind will let you know when you need to be in a certain location, right? In order for some sort of synchronicity to occur. Your higher mind will also have an ability to tell you whether or not an opportunity is yours or not. Your higher mind will do so well, in fact, that you will know that you have an opportunity prior to even going out for the opportunity. You will know that it belongs to you prior to even putting your name in the hat, right? Because the higher mind will instruct you to do this. The higher mind is also what some people consider to be a psychic ability, whether or not it's clairvoyance or clairaudience or whatever, anywhere where you are getting information from. Right? So when some people are pulling information and they are getting downloads, for example, sometimes the downloads can happen from like a spirit guide or, an angelic being. But a lot of times when it comes to people dealing with the knowing feeling, if it's just a knowing, it's not that the information was communicated to them from anywhere specifically. It's just a knowing. You're talking or you're back in connection with the higher mind. It's not really that you're talking to it because it's you. The higher mind is yourself that is still connected to spirit. The higher mind is the version of you that is not caught up in the physical reality matrix. It is the version of you that is the spirit version of you that has an ability to look down from a bird's eye view and see all the pieces on the chessboard. It knows where all of the pieces are moving because the higher mind itself is the one that's maneuvering the pieces. The higher mind is your higher self. Again, it's the version of you that's already decided upon your incarnation. The higher mind is the one calling all of the shots. And so it has an ability to let you know, because you are working with yourself, right? What those shots were that were already called. But it's a very calm voice. It's a very self-assured voice. It's a voice that doesn't require any form of validation or reassurance. It's not going to overanalyze to double check its work. It's a simple knowing that it simply is what it is. This is the intuition. That is like that mother's instinct where a mother just knows that something is about to pop off. All of that information is coming from the higher mind, higher self. And a lot of times people confuse this with the physical mind. And so when the brain is analyzing and then it reaches a conclusion based off of what it understands of probability, right? And then that thing doesn't come to pass. We think that we have misunderstood something or that we didn't properly read our intuition or that our psychic ability fell off somewhere along the way. That it is something wrong with us, not realizing that we are following the physical mind. Now, the physical mind is like think of it as like an advisor. It's more of an advisor than it is of something that you necessarily follow. The physical mind has an ability to give you possible outcomes to certain situations. And based off of those possible outcomes, you then have an ability to then make further decisions based off of what was calculated, right? That is also how we do the bulk of things in our physical world. Mostly things that require our use of some kind of physicality. So like, let's say you get hungry, right? You may sit there and go, should I eat this or should I eat that? And what is happening is the brain then starts calculating what is faster to eat? How much time do you have on your hands, right? Are you at work and then you only have a 30-minute lunch break, or maybe you don't have a lunch break at all? The brain is then trying to figure out, how do I get sustenance to this body, right? Quickly, in a way that's not going to take that much time, but it also has hopefully some amount of nutrition that can continue, that will allow the body to continue until the next possible time it can eat again. And then the brain will then start calculating, well, when can it eat again? Is it this time? Is it this time? Is it this time? And then you'll notice that at sometimes you will feel hungry, but because your brain calculated that you're going to have a full meal in 2 hours, you may go, okay, I'm just going to have a snack. That is coming from the brain's computing, right? And so you do follow like the advice that the brain is giving when it comes to things that are physical. The physical brain you can listen to for things that are physical. But when you are dealing with the metaphysics and you're dealing with things that have not come into your visibility yet, things that you cannot see physically yet, you are working with the higher mind. The higher mind is the higher self. It is the part of you that is still in spirit, that has already chosen what's going to happen based on what you wanted to do prior to incarnation. And that voice is a lot more subtle and a lot more quiet. And the reason for that is because it doesn't need to be loud. It's not justifying anything. It's not validating anything, because it simply just knows. So when it's communicating, when you are picking up from your higher mind, here in the physical, dense reality that we are in, it's not going to shout it at you. It doesn't need to shout it at you because it's assured. It already knows. What is it shouting for, right? What is it justifying? What point is it trying to prove? It's not proving anything because it already knows, because it decided prior to incarnation on what it will be, right? And so that is how you can tell the difference between where the information is coming from that you are actually picking up. Is it bad if you're picking up from the physical mind? Not necessarily. Just understand that the brain is computing, right? And that some people have really good computation skills, computing skills, right? I'm someone that my brain computes and it computes fast. It's good with probability, it's good with possibility, it's good with outcome. And sometimes a download may come from the physical mind because it ran through all the stats, right? And then it had an outcome that I fairly trust because perhaps I have computed something like that in the past and my accuracy rate is pretty high, right? And so you're going to have situations like that as well. But whenever you are in a place where you're like, is it this choice or is it this choice? And you're trying to figure out where it is, and you're waiting for a download, or you're trying to give space for your intuition to kick in order for it to guide you, just remember that if you feel yourself analyzing, if you feel yourself carrying the one, then you are working with the physical mind and not the higher mind. The higher mind is much more still, much more quiet, and a lot more calm and a lot more peaceful. Your physical mind may give you heightened emotions, possible feelings of anxiety, confusion. It's not information that is coming from a higher source, your higher source, or your higher self. So I hope that was helpful. And I am going to wrap there. I'm going to let you mull for a little bit. As always, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel. And if we don't meet again, I'll see you next lifetime.